welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news and update show. Big story coming in on Andre Onana from Laurie Whitwell of The Athletic. He talks about a lot of things and I will cover some of the things he mentions in his article, including Onana, his agent. Why is his agent at Carrington? Well, Onana wants a pay rise. He doesn't want to take a pay cut if we don't get European qualification, even though he is the guy that's most likely going to cost us getting back into the Champions League, because he's the guy that's cost us in Europa League. He thinks that he should be the one player that doesn't have to take a pay cut if we don't qualify for the Champions League, eh? Will Onana go? United open to offloading Onana, but what are the funds? How much do United need because of Onana's book value? We're going to discuss that. Updates on a double exit for Romano confirms 2 players that will leave Manchester United at the end of the season. Zirkzee staying, Hojlund up for sale. Amorim's made his mind up on the striker situation according to news. Garnacho sale update, fee being lowered, United more open to selling Garnacho. What's the situation with right wing backs? Will we sign one? Anthony, what's the situation with him? Oh my. Links to Aaron Ramsdale. Well, you might as well keep an eye on it there. And updates on youth and recruitment plans. So we've got lots to get through in today's show. Big up everybody. Someone said it is lagging. Have we got a bit of lag? You're buffering bad. I can't hear what you're saying. Ooh. My sound is lagging. Let me try and do my mic again. Is this any better? I've changed mic options. I don't know if this makes a difference. I don't know. Someone said the sound is bugging. You're lagging. It's okay, my bad. Bear with me. I don't want to get into the show if you have any technical issues. People are just saying it's all right now. Okay, people are saying it's all right now. Okay, it's okay. Sorry about that. I've changed mics, so I don't know if this is any better than the last one. I've changed to the built-in mic on my laptop rather than my actual mic. So if the sound isn't great, just let me know. But everyone's saying it's okay now. I do apologise about any bugging there at the beginning. But good that it seems better. So, if you do enjoy today's video, feel free to hit that like button. Of course, subscribe if you're new. We do one live show a day, 1 10-minute video roundup a day. Let's talk about Andre Onana. So Laurie Whitwell works for The Athletic, one of the best sources of information in the space. You know, for me, if you're going to listening to any United journalists, Laurie Whitwell's good, David Ornstein's good, Adam Crafton's good, Fabrizio Romano's good. I know he repeats himself, but he is very good. Simon Stone isn't a United journalist, but he gets decent info. Like, do you know what I mean? They're the people I would pay most attention to. There's obviously other journalists out there that do get info as well, but Laurie Whitwell is probably among the more credible sources of information. He doesn't put information out unless he knows, you know, it's legit, it's real. Anyway, he said this. The position of goalkeeper has not been on the agenda for United to this point. Striker is the priority, plus perhaps another attacker, a midfielder and a wing-back. But faith in Onana is eroding due to mistakes in a pivotal moment, and after Amorim gave him space to disconnect, there is a feeling around the club that a lasting separation could at least be explored by both sides. So he's being very careful with the language he uses here. But what Laurie Whitwell is saying, and it's probably what I've been saying for months, and when I say I've been saying it, I've been assuming it based off the information we've been given, is United's number one focus is attack. Striker 10, that is the number one focus. They also know they need a progressive midfielder. They also know that they're going to need maybe a wing-back, maybe another centre-back for depth. But there's probably an understanding there they also need a goalkeeper. Now, I've named 6 positions there. They might have to prioritise 5 of the 6 positions and say, do we leave the centre-back, do we leave the wing-back, do we leave the goalkeeper? They were maybe considering a couple of weeks ago leaving the goalkeeper another year, but now after Onana's mistakes, Bayern not being the best backup, they may say, hey, can we get a cheaper wing-back and a cheaper centre-back? Are we going to leave the wing-back? I think the fact that Onana's been dropped, he's sort of not wanted at United, Amorim's come in, it's not Ten Hag. Ten Hag brought Onana and not Amorim. You know, Amorim dropping Onana, rumours that Amorim's open to selling Onana, United exploring alternatives for Onana has maybe unsettled Onana in that sense. I also think Onana doesn't want to take a pay cut. He wants to get a pay rise. He's only going to get that in Saudi. Now, the good news for Onana is Saudi clubs are interested in Onana, and I think considering Onana's so bothered about trying to get a pay rise when he's not playing well at United, maybe he'll be interested in the money that Saudi have to offer him. And I think the only way United are going to be able to get rid of Onana, because he's got £26 million on his book value, so we need £26 million for Onana to, not make a loss on him, is potentially selling him, and I think Saudi's the only club that can do that. Nubis said, why do we need to buy a new goalkeeper when we have Vitek? He's a ball-playing goalkeeper, young, tall, strong, because you can't assume that Vitek's going to step up and be the next Alisson. Do you know what I mean? He's probably could compete with Onana, but you don't know how good he will be in the Premier League under the given circumstances at Manchester United. But I think if Onana goes, he could go to Saudi. So this is what else has been said on Onana. Onana's current terms include the squad-wide pay cut for non-qualification to the Champions League, which is a standard 25% that can be negotiated individually. Onana expected United to compete in the Champions League through, and the financial drop came as a shock to the system when activated last summer. Onana had a conversation on this matter with sporting director Dan Ashworth. So Onana wasn't happy last season that because we weren't in the Champions League, he got a 25% wage cut. Now, the only way we can get back in the Champions League next season and Onana gets full wages is if we win Europa. Now, Onana right now is costing us in the Europa. So I think the fact that Onana brought his agent to Carrington yesterday, and he apparently changed his agent because he wanted to get a pay rise at United. Onana, because we're not going to get... Onana basically wants to make sure that he earns what he'd get if we'd have got Champions League football. The player that might cost us getting Champions League football with his Europa League mistakes and the big mistakes he made in the Champions League wants Champions League wages when we're not in the Champions League, which is it's ridiculous when you actually think about it. Maybe someone said maybe have a conversation about a pay cut. Honestly, he's got a 25% pay cut because we're not in the Champions League, and we probably might not be in the Champions League next year, and he doesn't want to have a pay cut in this season as well. But you're one of the reasons we might not be in the Champions League next season. Now, what we know is Onana came to Carrington yesterday with his agent. Now, Onana coming to Carrington yesterday with his agent obviously stirred up some news, stirred up some rumours. Why is he taking his agent with him to Carrington? Well, a lot of people are saying, well, he's been trying to negotiate a new contract at United. That's why he's brought his agent with him. But now talks suggest that his agents could be looking elsewhere in Saudi to get him a move. Do you think Ramsdale would be a good backup keeper? As a backup keeper, I'd take Ramsdale as a Buendia replacement, but I don't think replacing Onana with Ramsdale would fix our issues. Onana is bad. We need to sell him. We need 26 million in the book value. We need 26 million to sell Onana. That's what we need as well. Do you think Onana will go? Depends on Saudi. David says more Onana this week. Lol, guy has had solid 4 players in front of him since he was at Inter. It's not all on Onana. Onana made the mistakes. He gets the brunt of the hate, but it's not his fault that Hojlund wasn't particularly good in that game. Hojlund was just as bad as Onana in that Lyon game. Like, let's be totally honest. Be everybody in the chat as well. Even if we buy a goalkeeper, seems like not going to sanction much on that position. Keep opting for cheap, no guarantee of improvement. I think what United are thinking is, Inter sold Onana for 50 million, got Jan Sommer for 6 million, are going to win the league. I think United are thinking, is there a keeper out there in that 20 million or less range that we can bring in to replace Onana with? Because realistically, we can't spend 50 million to replace Onana. If we get 30 million for Onana, we're essentially getting 4 million when you take away the book value added to the bank. To then invest in a new goalkeeper, for example. So United aren't in the position to spend 50 million on the keeper. Maybe next season they would be in a position. But you look at that and you say, well, if we'd have known, we should have just kept with Dean Henderson. He's probably better than Onana. Kovar's gone out. You maybe do look at the youngsters. I think we're going to look at that Royal Antwerp keeper. If I was to guess, I think we'll be having a look at that Royal Antwerp keeper. But yeah, do you think Onana will leave? I think it's increasingly likely. I think unless he ends the season on a real high, I think it's increasingly likely, especially if he's not happy with his wages. And Man United are going to say, well, look, you've not been good lately. Why are we going to, give you higher wages? Why are we going to give you a wage rise when we're not in the Champions League and you're one of the reasons? So I think there's a possibility he could go, especially with the Saudi interest. I think if he goes to Saudi. So I want to touch upon a few other stories coming in regards to the outs. As I've always said, there's a lot of transfer news surrounding United, but nobody knows what the budget is and who will buy until we know about the outs. So what I mean by that is basically, if we sell Sancho, Anthony, Rashford, Garnacho, Casemiro, and all the players that are meant to live on a free leave for free, we're going to have the funds to spend. But we're in a position where Chelsea sends Sancho back. We can't sell Anthony. We can't sell Malacia. We can't sell Rashford. We can't sell Casemiro. We can't sell Garnacho. We can't sell Hojlund. We're in trouble. What we do this summer in terms of the spend depends on sales. If Hojlund goes, if Garnacho goes, if Casemiro goes, Eriksen, Heaton, Evans, Lindelof goes, if we lose those players and Rashford, Anthony, Sancho, we find buyers for them, and Malacia we find buyers for, and all those players that I've named go, we're going to have a very big summer transfer window. We're going to have a lot of money to spend. But if we don't offload those players, we were not going to have as much money to spend. Like, what we can do this summer massively depends on outgoings. And 2 outgoings that have been confirmed are obviously Tom Heaton and Johnny Evans. Romano said that Tom Heaton and Johnny Evans are both set to leave Manchester United at the end of the season, and that comes as no surprise there. Eriksen and Lindelof also expected to leave. I mean, the fact that Eriksen and Lindelof were starting in that Newcastle game, you can see that they are weaker spots in the side, and they need to go. And we're going to save like 12 million a year just on getting them off the wage bill. Frank says, are we really blaming our defenders for Onana's clown show? Our defence of the highlight of the season. I agree. Look, I understand saying, right, Onana's getting way too much stick. Hojlund was just as bad. We can't blame it all on Onana. I get that. But Euro has been good lately. De Ligt has been good lately. Maguire is all right. It's not Onana, I think the defence has been fine. I just think that the only thing in defence of Onana I have is Hojlund was just as bad as Onana in that Lyon game, but Onana's getting all the pelters. I don't think the defence. I think the defence, as a unit, has conceded silly goals, but that was definitely Onana's fault versus Lyon. Onana's fault versus Lyon for sure. But yeah, Eriksen and Lindelof, I think, are on the way out. They will go. They're on a lot of money. We'll save 13, 14 million with their exit, and we know that they're sort of finished at United. They're still decent players, but they're not able to do it in the Premier League at the intensity in Ruben Amorim's system week in, week out. Victor Lindelof in particular has had injury issues, struggled as Linda Soft. Eriksen, I think, is a good player, but he can't do it in the Premier League week in, week out. So he is expected to leave, as well as Lindelof, as well as Heaton, as well as Evans. And I will say versus Newcastle, I'd have rather seen a Jack Morehouse instead of a Christian Eriksen. I'd have rather seen an Aiden Heaven if he was fit instead of a Victor Lindelof. For me, if we know that Lindelof, Evans, Heaton, and Eriksen all leaving at the end of the season on a free, why don't you play Jack Morehouse? Why don't you play Aiden Heaven? Why don't you play the youngsters like Jack Fletcher instead? Personally, I would love to see the youngsters sort of get those minutes and get those opportunities as well. I do want to get into the Zirkzee and Hojlund news and a few other stories, but I just need to take a quick sip of water. I'm so thirsty today, I do apologise. I don't know what it is today, but when you just like really thirsty. Oh, I've got a super chat. Thank you very much. Alice, what's your team for 25-26? Hojlund up top. No, I'm joking. How realistic? If we're going not so realistic, we're going Gyökeres striker, Cunha left 10, Ahmad right 10, Bruno and Angelo still in the pivot. Left wing back, Kirkes. Right wing back, I would rotate between Dorgu, Mantato, Diallo. Then I would go Schlotterbeck left centre back, De Ligt central centre back, Lloris right centre back, and then in goal I would go with Lucas Chevier of Lille. If we're talking unrealistic, if we're talking realistic, as the lap up top, Cunha left 10, Ahmad right 10, Roger Fernandez right wing back, Dorgu left wing back, Bruno and Hayden Hackney in the pivot, with a Euro, De Ligt, and an Aiden Heaven back three, but we definitely need another centre back to come in for depth. And goal, Joan Garcia. If we're talking more realistic, but that's probably what I would do. I'm just going to scroll down the chat as well. Onana has no defence when he's making mistakes. De Gea made incredible saves and was player of the year every season despite mistakes, but Onana is nowhere near that. Onana is better with his feet and in build-up than David De Gea, but he's got nothing compared to David De Gea when it comes to shot stopping. and he could have saved both of those in the Lyon game. And I think it's not the fact that he made the mistake and could have saved both of them in the Lyon game. I think it's the talk he gave before the Lyon game to then put in a howler. He clearly lets the mental side affect him. I think Onana, why he's been poor at United, because I watched Onana at Inter and he was a very good keeper at Inter, is he's clearly affected by the mental side. And the mental side at United, you've got a different level of pressure on you that I think some keepers just can't deal with. I think there's a keeper curse at Man United. You have to be one of those as well. Big up everybody watching. Let's get over 250 likes, over 500 people watching. Big up Diego. Yeah, we've got 500 people in the chat. So if you are enjoying today's stream, feel free to hit the like button and of course subscribe if you're new. Alice, would you like to see Cheeto in the Europa League? Cheeto can't play in the Europa League. That's the annoying thing about Zirkzee being injured, is Hojlund's the only striker because Cheeto was not registered, so he can't play. I mean, Gyökeres, I'd like Osimhen or Gyökeres. I don't actually have a preference between the two. I like them both. Just because Man United are poor in the league and in 14th doesn't mean they'll be poor. It's poor next season. Could be good, but won't be too good. Coach knows what he needs to do, says Steve. I agree. I think Ruben Amorim, you give him 5 good signings in the summer, and I think we'll see a lot of progress next season. I'm not saying we're going to win the league or be anywhere near a league title, but I think we'll be a lot better than 14th with 4 or 5 really good signings. Yes, Rasmus has been poor, but he wasn't brought in to immediately start, got no support from the start, and has completely lost confidence. All our problems go back to Jim and the Glazers. I agree. I mean, Rasmus has been very poor that right now. I think the best thing for him would be a loan and change of environment with less pressure to get service, because we don't give Hojlund service, but also the things that Hojlund was doing good in his first season, he's now not doing in his second season, which I think is a confidence thing. So I do think for Hojlund, he could become a good player in the future, but I think he might need a year away from United on loan with a change in environment because he's just not there. But we definitely need a striker to lead the line. We need a striker and a goalkeeper that have that mentality. You know, Alisson and Van Dijk, you look at them at Liverpool, the Alisson's mentality, Van Dijk's mentality, they've won Liverpool many trophies. We need that centre-back, which maybe could be De Ligt, but we need that goalkeeper. And then up top, we need that player. You know, they've got Mohamed Salah. He's not a striker, but he's a player that's reliable. We need that player up top. That's what you need. You need a core of a good centre-back, a good midfielder, a good goalkeeper, and a good attacking player that can score goals. And then you can build the youth players around them. Slotterbeck's not that good. I'd rather go for Aiden Heaven. I think Slotterbeck's great, but he has picked up an injury. I think Aiden Heaven's fantastic, and I don't think we could afford Slotterbeck. We have been linked to Lukeba as well, but apparently he would cost 60 million, and I don't think Man United are going to spend 60 million on a centre-back this summer when we need a striker, a 10, a midfielder, a wing-back, and a goalkeeper. I think United are going to do like a 15 million centre-back, a 15 million goalie, a 20 million right wing-back, and spend the rest on attack and another player to go in the pivot because, you know, Ugarte can do all the off-the-ball work and all the work that we need done off the ball, Ugarte can do, but when it comes on the ball, his lack of IQ is showing. So what's been said in terms of plans in regards to strikers? So this was said by Give Me Sport. Manchester United head coach Ruben Amorim is planning to keep Joshua Zirkzee and listen to offers of Rasmus Hojlund after re-evaluating his attacking options ahead of being able to make adjustments to his Old Trafford squad in the summer. Do you know what's really interesting is if we go back to when we last played Newcastle at home when Zirkzee got booed off, the perception then was Hojlund's the better of the strikers, Zirkzee could go in January, Hojlund's expected to fit Amorim's system better and flourish under Amorim when given time. We're now in a position where Zirkzee's the better striker, we're annoyed he's injured, and Hojlund's probably the one that needs to go. I think Ruben Amorim, now he's spent time with the Man United squad, it's like, you know what? Joshua Zirkzee is probably better and offers more than Rasmus Hojlund right now. I think Joshua Zirkzee, if he had more goals in his locker, but he's not a natural goal scorer, would be a very, very good player. Look at his touches, look at his plays, look at his patterns of play that he does. So I look at Joshua Zirkzee and I think, you know what? We definitely want an out-and-out goal scorer striker where Zirkzee can be back up to that goal scorer striker, be an option that comes off the bench and also be a 10. We definitely want that striker. Whereas Rasmus Hojlund, when Amorim first came in, everyone got excited. Rasmus Hojlund could maybe turn into Gyökeres under Amorim. You know, similar profiles, similar channel runs. You know, there was a lot of, you know what, Hojlund could become good under Amorim. But Hojlund's completely regressed. And that's not necessarily Amorim's fault. I think a lot of it is Hojlund and his confidence. But what Hojlund used to do, getting at players, running down the channels, shooting, he's not even doing now. Like, the confidence in his all-round play compared to how it was when he first came to United is so different. The reason fans got behind him when he first came into United is because in the Champions League, he showed real elements of what he could do. He scored good goals, but his touch has got worse, this has got worse, that has got worse. And I do look at it and say, while Hojlund was the long-term project, it looks like they could cash in on Hojlund and keep him back Zirkzee. It really looks like we could. Will you do a watch along for the Europa League? Maybe, to see how I feel. Because I've got a lot on Thursday. See how tired I am as well. Zirkzee with confidence as a baller, yeah. Look what a bit of confidence has done to Zirkzee. He's been balling out. News about Ahmad. Actually, we have got news about Ahmad. So Ahmad Diallo is back training on grass and running on grass, which means there's an expectation that he could be back by the end of the month, like early May, they think. So he won't be back. If we get to the Europa League semi-final, they reckon he could play in the second leg of the Europa League semi-final. So if we can get to the Europa League semi-final, we will have Ahmad. If we don't get to the Europa League semi-final, we can play Ahmad in the last couple of Premier League games. But I don't think there's any point in rushing him back if it's any kind of risk, because the Premier League is pointless. It's only rush Ahmad back if we've got Europa League and, we need him, but I wouldn't rush him back for a Premier League game. So I think if we beat Lyon, we could see Ahmad back for that semi-final, which would be great to see and boost on Ahmad as well. So that is good news. This is going to be a battle versus Lyon. It is going to be a battle. You were right, Steve. It's going to be a bit of a battle. Please keep Zirkzee. He just needs more time on the ball. If Zirkzee has electric runners around him that can score goals, he'd be great. Do you know what? You put Zirkzee in that Liverpool side, he'd be very good. I feel like Zirkzee is a good player. We need to improve the dynamics around him. Like, I honestly think had Zirkzee played for Liverpool instead of Darwin Núñez and Jota, I think Salah would have had a better season. I think Gakpo, Diaz would have had a better season. And that might sound crazy because Salah can't really have a better season than the one he's having right now. But I think, Zirkzee, and people might think this is crazy, is he might not score goals. But you look at someone like Gakpo, who's got really good output and he's quick. You look at Salah, got really good output and he's quick. Zirkzee works best with players with output, and Zirkzee was actually brought in to work with Rashford, and we didn't see that with his link-up play. If your mate runs off Zirkzee, you've got a bit of speed and good output, he's going to be a key player to line up with. And that makes me sound crazy, and that makes me sound silly, but I actually think he would have worked well at Liverpool. He probably would have worked quite well, weirdly. Actually, no, we wouldn't have, because they don't score goals. He wouldn't. Chelsea probably wouldn't have worked as well, because Maresca wants more of a box number 9. Arsenal, if Saka stayed fit, he would work well with Saka. But actually, yeah, I think Zirkzee, is proven he's a little bit of a baller. He just needs a bit of confidence, a bit of time. Imagine being 22 years of age and you move to the Premier League and you're played, you're misprofiled, you played out of position, and fans won't give you time at United. I'm not saying that Zirkzee's amazing, but I think there's a player there. He's a backup. Zirkzee is a very good option as a backup 9, but he also is better as a 10. Zirkzee is better as a 10 than a 9 in Amorim's system. And as a backup 9, he's a very good option to have because he can cover 9, he can cover 10. But Manchester United definitely need an out-and-out striker. But I think a system with wingers that like to get forward and output, Zirkzee would be very good. Alice, what are the chances of Maino or Mount or Shaw starting on Thursday? I don't know about starting. I think they're all able to play half an hour now. I don't know about starting. Maybe he starts Mason Mount. Maybe he thinks Mason Mount's ready to start. But I don't know. I don't think Maino's ready to start. I don't think Shaw's ready to start, considering he's only had about 10 minutes on the pitch. Maybe Mount starts, but I think it's more of a get them on in the second half. But I do think, do you remember in the Europa League, when we had Mount, Maino and Zirkzee on, the football we played versus Lyon with Mount, Maino and Zirkzee on was so much better than the football we played with Hojlund and Garnacho and Agate on. It was just so much better the way we were keeping the ball and controlling the ball. And I think Ruben Amorim will know that and be aware of that. So I think it'll be interesting to see, but I don't think they're ready to start just quite yet. Alice, do a watch long got withdrawal symptoms. The reason I stopped watch longs was because I was just like, I know I get more views and stuff if Man United are losing that, but because Man United have been so painful and pointless to watch, I was just struggling my watch longs. If I was tired and and Man United were playing crap, I just didn't have that energy. But because the Europa League is quite a big game, I might do watch longs. For like big games like cup finals, Liverpool, Arsenal, I might bring back the watch longs for the big games. It's just I've struggled with the watch longs with just how we've played this season because I'm not enjoying us as much. I think when we start winning again and playing good football, the watch longs will definitely return. But it's just sometimes when you're tired, you've had a long day, you do a lot of streams, videos, work outside of YouTube, and then you got to watch along. And when I do a watch along, I've got to try and speak for 2 hours, engage with you guys, because a lot of the time I feel like I've done watch alongs and I'm a little bit half asleep, and I feel like that's not a good watch along to watch. It's quality, not quantity. Because I'm fed up of watching Man United. It's not. I don't know. Some people like it, but I just feel like if I'm sat here and I'm silent because I'm just so fed up of Man United, it's hard to do a good watch along. So that's sort of one of the reasons I stopped. But I think if we actually play good football, I'd do a watch along. It's just I've struggled to watch us. We're just a tough watch at the moment as well. Just a tough watch. I think Villa gets slapped up today. I'm hoping Villa win. Rashford versus PSG. You never know. Man United had a 2-goal deficit versus PSG and we knocked them out. But this PSG side, for me, PSG, Barcelona are the 2 best teams in the competition. Barcelona and PSG play unreal stuff. But yeah, up the Villa. Hopefully Villa get a win today. Rashford goal. Hopefully he plays Rashford on the left. Onana has been playing Rashford striker lately. I think that's because Watkins has picked up a knock. But yeah, let's continue on into some more stories. Manchester United's asking price for Garnacho in January was around 60 million euros, but it can now drop to 45 million euros in the summer, and this would make it easier for Napoli to land the deal. Napoli to land the Argentinian international. Conte is keen and would want Garnacho at the Maradona and can make the transfer as soon as possible. We're not going to sell Garnacho for 40 million. Considering Eddie Nketiah went for nearly 40 million, and he was crap. No offense. Like, Garnacho, we can easily get 50, 60 million for Garnacho. I know Garnacho hasn't been great, but we should be looking for £50 million from Napoli with 60 million add-ons. I can understand us wanting 70 million back in January because we had no replacements, but there's no point selling Garnacho for anything less than 50 million, and I would still ask for 60 million, including add-ons. You've got to realise the potential there, not just go with the recency bias. But there is talk of us lowering Garnacho's fee and being more interested in selling Garnacho. Did you see McTominay? Yeah, he's been playing well. But this is the thing, a lot of Man United players will be crap for us. McTominay, if he was with us, would be crap, but he'll go to a different environment, be used in his main role, and do well. And it just shows the toxicity of this club. Most players leave Man United and do a lot better, and they get played in a better role. It just shows that this club is an issue. We've got to make sure that we bring the right players in for how we want to play and build the right environment. PSG are better now than the so-called superstars. I prefer watching PSG now than when they had Neymar, Mbappe and Messi. They've built a team. It's not individuals. And do you know what? This is why I think Real Madrid is struggling. Real Madrid have got all the individuals, but they're not the best at playing together as a team, and they've had issues at the back defensively. Sometimes I think it's about the team and the dynamics and how you play with each other. You could have the best 11 players in the world, but if a lot of them want to shoot and score because they think they're the best and they don't connect well as a team, it's actually not just about the best individuals, it's about the best team. Who complements your players the most? And that's what PSG have built. They've built a team, whereas Real Madrid are like, we're going to buy Trent because he's the best right back. We'll buy so-and-so because you're the best left back. And they might bring Xabi Alonso in next year. And Mbappe doesn't shoot Xabi Alonso football if he's got to be tracking back, and that's quite defensive. That's what I look at it. One person says Garnacho is an underrated player. The other person says Garnacho is not improved. I weirdly agree with both, but disagree. I think Garnacho's not improved this season, true. I think that he's getting so much stick, Garnacho, that he's almost becoming underrated because he's getting so much stick, but he has not been great this season. That's what I'd say in that sense. I think he gets more stick than he should because I think he makes things happen. It's just he's incredibly wasteful in the final third with his decision-making, with his physicality. But I look at Garnacho and think there's a good player there. He's just not there yet. Amorim came in and ruined Garnacho. I mean, elements, yeah. I think Garnacho, if he was a super sub and there was more people to rotate him with, he'd be better. I also think he should have tried Garnacho at wing back. But Garnacho's definitely better as a traditional winger. Definitely as a traditional winger. One thing I don't like about Amorim, it's not Amorim's fault because we lost Rashford and Antony and didn't bring an attacker in, is I feel like the goals have dried up under Amorim. We weren't scoring loads under Ten Hag, but I feel like we might be better out of possession and defensively under Amorim, but in possession and on the ball and scoring, we aren't good at scoring goals under Amorim. That element of our game's massively regressed. Let's continue on into some more news. So United Frenzy has come out and said this. Jeremy Frimpong is a long-term target of United's and they have continued to keep tabs on him this season. However, there is hope for the right wing-back situation could be solved internally. Should a move be pursued in the position, Roger Fernandez is a target. So Manchester United are looking at Roger Fernandes and Frimpong for right wing back. They're keeping an eye on them. 1, does Frimpong want to come to us? 2, what is the fee? What is the price? But United are looking at the right wing back market according to United Frenzy, and I think we do need another wing back. We lack those natural wing backs, and Dorgu's so young and raw, and he can play left wing back, he can play right wing back, but we need somebody else. When Real lean into the Galactica policy does not always work. Original Galacticos actually did not win that very much. True. If we didn't loan Rashford, we'd be doing good right now. I think Rashford would have found form had Amorim given him a run of games at left 10. If Rashford got the opportunity Garnacho got on the left-hand side this season, I think he'd have scored 10 more goals than Garnacho. And people won't like me for saying that, but I strongly believe Rashford can put the ball in the back of the net in a lot of the situations that Garnacho hasn't. So it was also said by Laurie Whitwell, going back to Onana, that his book value is £26.3 million. Finding a buyer to bid more than that is expected to be a struggle. It is for this reason that some people close to the situation believe that he will stay. I spoke about this. I tweeted this the other day. I said United are open to offloading Onana, but it's easier said than done because his book value is nearly £30 million. So for Man United to sell Onana, we're going to need near £30 million. I literally tweeted this about 2-3 days ago. That's the situation with Onana. He's open to Saudi are open to him, United are open to selling, but United need at least £26.3 million to even consider selling Onana. And if they do sell for £26.3 million, they still don't actually bring any money into getting a replacement. So that's one thing to bear in mind with Andre Onana and his potential exit. There is news as well that Real Betis are not going to pay the penalty agreed with Man United for Antony, because Antony's now breached 15 matches as a starter for Real Betis. But it was also said if Real Betis qualify for the Champions League or win the Conference League, United will get more money for them for Antony. Also, if Real Betis qualify for the Champions League, they will have the funds to potentially do Antony on a permanent deal. They want Antony on a permanent deal. They've decided that. So that's positive news there in regards to Antony. There is talk that Aaron Ramsdale was among names on United's keeper list and will sign 2 keepers. Ramsdale's a backup keeper, absolutely fine with it. Ramsdale's a starting keeper. I would rather keep Onana. I'd rather than spending that kind of money on Ramsdale, you might as well keep Onana. Do you know what I mean? So that's news on Ramsdale. And there is some stories as well about the United's youth scouting department looking at some African talent at the moment. Like we did with Sekou Kone, they're really scouting Africa and other rogue places to find more talent out there. As well for the academy, like Sekou Kone. We also linked to Dorgils earlier on. Christopher Vivels looking at South America, Africa, and other places for young players. But anyway, that is your news rounded up into 30 minutes there. Do you think we'll get Ramsdale? No. James Trafford we've been linked to, but I think he's going to go to Newcastle. David said Saudi club would pay 30 million for Onana easy. You'd hope so, but you just don't know with United. They might think they can mug him off and get him on the cheap. Is Amorim the manager you wanted to really think he'll succeed? I think Amorim will succeed if we get recruitment spot on. But that is not on Amorim to get recruitment spot on. That's on those above him. But Amorim's system doesn't get the best out of Garnacho, and that's one of the reasons I think Garnacho could go. There's a lot of rumours about Garnacho's future, and I think he could go. Hopefully Garnacho can take some momentum from the last goal and get something against Leon. I do think Garnacho's a confidence player. I want Garnacho to score against Leon. If Garnacho can score on 4 games in a row, I think Garnacho's 5th game, he'll look like a different player. I still think he's better off the bench. I still think he's better when he gets less minutes and he's really fighting for his place and doesn't get too comfortable. But the fight and desire from Garnacho, you can't criticise. The positions he gets into are dangerous, but it's just how wasteful he is. But you can develop that element of his game. And that's why I still believe in Garnacho. But anyway, people, we've got 200 likes. Big up everybody that tuned into today's live show. Over 700 people watching today, which was amazing. I'm going to wrap up here, but I am going to do a 10-minute news show tonight. So make sure to subscribe for that. Thank you for watching. Thanks to everyone that got involved in the chat. See you next time. Bye.